engine build as previously that BMW.
Yep, they took it out. They took the whole wiring harness, laid it in this car, and everything fit perfect.
Sick, love it. Here we go. Jonathan Hurst out front, Cash Racing, send it. Here we go. Keeping it cool, Mr. Cool. Woo! There are those taillights. He keeps it off the wall, but good composure there. The Mr. Cool KENDA Tires caddy. The caddy daddy goes in that last inside clip. And there we go.
Wow.
Snooki, I mean, what a good debut for both those guys. Their first official head-to-head 2024 right here as James steps out of his vehicle. He's got to feel a little sigh of relief there, advancing on after all he and his team have endured.
Yeah, Hurst was struggling a little bit in practice to find basically where the rear end of the car is. He's sitting so much further back than the BMW, and there's not a lot of run out behind the rear wheel. You can see here he's got it sorted. Now, Snooki further back than I think he wanted to be. I mean, it is a very fast car. It's one of the lightest cars we've got in the series right now, but just not getting the proximity. So he could be playing a very safe game in hopes that he's able to just absolutely rocket ship out. But Hurst doing a good job through outside zone 1. Outside zone 2 definitely could have been a little bit deeper. We see some wheel corrections there. Saw an e-brake pull coming out of 2, but that did get him deep into 3. Touch and go looks great. Gets back on the throttle here, almost 90 degrees to that clipping point. So Hurst had a very solid lead run, not perfect. Stuckey definitely could have been deeper in though.
All right, well, let's see if they can swing that thing like that Miles Parrish track. Miles Parrish, new track got swang out right now, big car guy. I think he's here in the building. So we got Daniel Stuckey, Jonathan Hurst. Stuckey will lead. Like you said, just a clinical build here, built with a fine-tuned foam. Let's see what the S-Spec Performance S-Chassis got for the Pride of Paducah in that chase position. Stuckey gets out there, flirts with the wall, swings back into that second outside zone of the bridge. But look at that, Mr. Cool applying the pressure. There he is, firing off like an AK. Here we go in that last inside clip. Mr. Cool and the caddy are on the door of the M-Spec S-Chassis. Make some noise, Long Beach.
Pop Daddy's back.
Pop Daddy, Caddy Daddy, yes sir, Mr. Cool.
He found a loophole in the rules. He's got his exhaust out the trunk. It exits past the exhaust. More fire, more better.
Right.
Oh man, what a battle. So yeah, Stuckey definitely quick. You can see it. He gaps Jonathan off the launch, back on the throttle, and then Jonathan's like, well, I'm not gonna let that happen again. Starts diving in. Stuckey does a really good job through both outside zones, but you can see here Jonathan's chase is significantly more aggressive. Now Stuckey, lead run wise, I would almost argue was better. He's able to fill all the zones, but just wasn't nearly as aggressive in the chase. So kind of have to weigh those two things out. Very, very smooth Stuckey on those Vitors, and you know Jonathan making the swap over to KENDA this year. But you can see those KENDAs are keeping up. That Cadillac looks great. I mean, it might be a C6 underneath of all that.
Right.
But
little RC car body. And
yeah.
I mean, that's what everybody is, not everybody's doing, excuse me, I digress. You know, Mustangs are Ford. You know,
yeah.
Chris has always been loyal to the Nissan. Even when he went V8, it was still a VK. But, you know, everybody's kind of doing the Frankenstein builds over the years, but that's an RC car, man.
It's great.
Yeah, I think it's cool. It's a good look. Looks good on him. All right, so slide him left for Hurst or right for Daniel Stuckey. Left, Hurst gets 1 vote and 2 votes. Jonathan Hurst, Mr. Cool, Cadillac, firing off the Pride of Paducah. Jonathan Hurst advances on. All right, let's throw it down to Lorette. Will lead in that AutoZone Mustang RTR Spec 5 FD, and then the Cadillac XLR of Jonathan Hurst. Let's see what Hurst has got for us, Caddy Daddy. And going against James the Machine Dean. James Machine Dean enters in, and again, James, you know what? Oh, and look at that. As Jonathan Hurst spins out, James Dean, if he continues on, will have a major advantage here. Oh, no!
Saves it.
Saves it, but that is going to be two independent incidents. So basically, it's going to default to this next run because both of them had mistakes. You know, was that the right approach? I mean, we're seeing a ton of smoke.
There's a
lot of smoke here.
I think some machismo got in the way of this.
But you know what? I mean, look, like I said, the Irish drivers, they know how to drive in the rain. Ireland has a lot of rain, so they know what to do. But what you see?
Hurst had a really good initiation, but it looks like James was really able to hold on to it a lot longer, and I don't know if Jonathan was quite prepared for it. And then as we come through here, wow, the moment James Dean comes off the throttle, that car snaps back. So
him and that sorry to cut you off. Him and that portion of the track have a very ill communication over here.
Yeah, it's a weird relationship that's going on, but it looks like we are getting word here. There's going to be a timeout called 5 minutes for James Dean. So it seems like there might have been a mechanical.
And going into outside zone 1, James Dean continue on outside zone 3. Bloop, he spun as well. So bloop, gee, here we go. Mr. Cool in that Cadillac, driven by Jonathan Hurst. This rat-a-tat-tat machine going against that 3-time champ as Jonathan Hurst uses all the course. Ping pongs his way. Mr. Cool on KENDA tires and James Dean continues on. What a solid lead run by Jonathan Hurst going after a 3-time champ. And James Dean fights back, but I'll tell you what, Hurst put it on the wall without touching it. I mean, you could put a sheet of paper between that caddy's rear end and the wall. I mean, that was unbelievable. Just under that pressure, new car for him. Same loud and proud engine, but the pride of Paducah really showed up, Jacob.
Yeah, I mean, right from initiation on, you knew this was going to be wild. It looked like he was going to crash in Outer Zone 1. Late transfer into Outer Zone 2, basically there, like perpendicular to the wall through 2, and at the end of 3, lines it up perfectly for the touch and go. Swings the back end around and through the inner clip. I mean, and then, I mean, on James's end, phenomenal job in the chase there. I don't know if he was expecting Jonathan to take off like a rocket, but James able to hold on to it. Not quite as deep as Jonathan is, but not super expected to be. I mean, in the chase, you want to mirror it. But wow. The only spot that James Dean showed any bit of need for improvement is just through that inner clip, and that's pretty much it. So
that was impressive, man. That looked so good. I mean, I think you guys can put your pen down.
Yeah.
That's a testimonial to just how close he was to that wall. That looked really sensational. It was clean, it was tidy, but you got to now take into consideration what happened on that first battle with James Dean. Jonathan spun first, James Dean, separate incidents, and then as sensational as that lead run was, we're kind of focusing on that because here he is. That's that's a giant. It is what it is. So very interesting there for Hurst and of course for James Dean.
I think both drivers need to be incredibly happy with the performance there. I mean, that was nuts. That was world class driving from both drivers, and especially for Jonathan Hurst getting into that new chassis. There's so many different things when it comes to that Cadillac.
Here we go, James Dean, Jonathan Hurst, one more, and there it is, one more time.
And up for 1 second, and that's it. So, congrats to Ken. I was finally starting to feel good for the weekend, and that's it. But that's racing, I guess. We'll try our best to come back for the next round.
Matt, thank you very much. Always putting his best foot forward, unfortunately.
Thank you so much. Here we go. James Dean backs it in. This is the one more time battle. And look at Jonathan Hurst. James Dean, massive angle there into outside zone 3 transition. They are absolutely shredding now. Expediting this course. Write their name on the streets of Long Beach. James Dean and Jonathan Hurst in that Mr. Cool Cadillac. That AutoZone Mustang RTR Spec 550. That's what we want to see. That was some solid runs.
Yeah, James Dean out front was great. I mean, Hurst gets caught up a little bit on that launch, but then makes up for it through the rest of this run. But James Dean, wall to wall, big swing, no corrections, front wheels going exactly where they need to be. Jonathan Hurst able to chase in behind him. And then James Dean here, maybe a little bit off that inside clip, nothing too crazy. And then as we get into basically into these replays to see what Jonathan Hurst was doing in the chase, you can see him surging in and out just a little bit, but he's able to basically reel in James Dean throughout the most of this run. He could have been in a little bit deeper, but we're going to swap this around. Jonathan Hurst is going to take the lead. He's going to basically run this as hard as he possibly can, and James Dean's going to have to try and keep up.
Well, and you know what's, this is exactly what he manifested. He says, take a couple breaths at the line. I trust James. Boom, trust fall. He says, catch me. And he says, catch me on your door. Catch me outside is what he said. And he was right there. So really good run there by both the drivers. And watch this, the Mr. Cool Cadillac. Do you know why he chose this car?
I just want to be different. That's it. I mean, he's a guy who likes to stand out, and what's more standoutish than an XLR?
I mean, the thing looks like half the height of that Ford Mustang here. All right, here we go. Jonathan Hurst up front, initiating. Look at that, tit for tat by James Dean. That XLR Cadillac 1 and 2. Phil ticking the boxes here. Is Jonathan Hurst now into that last inside clip? And James Dean.
Man.
Oh my gosh. Wow, what an effort by both the drivers. What a solid run. Make some noise for James Dean and Jonathan Hurst. Again, the one more time battle between them. Let's take a look at it again here, Jacob.
All right, Jonathan Hurst, e-brake, and you see almost a bit of contact there from James Dean, who's getting real aggressive. Jonathan in through the first outside zone, doing a phenomenal job in keeping the rotation going through the second, getting real deep in 3, but a little bit late, shoots off to our touch and go. James Dean almost gets gapped there for a second, and then Jonathan Hurst back on the power. So there's a couple of spots here going back and forth where they made some mistakes, not many, but you did see that James Dean did touch Jonathan Hurst. Maybe Jonathan could have gotten a little bit deeper there through outside zone 1, but he is not the kind of guy to let up when there's contact. He's the kind of guy to put his foot down, drive even harder, and that's what we saw. So James could have done a little bit better through that touch and go section. It just shows how fast of a driver Jonathan Hurst is when you can start pulling a bit of a gap on James Dean.
Yeah, no, it's really amazing what the Cash Racing team is doing. You know, Mr. Cool picked him up last year, and it's been great to see just him, just like you mentioned, Rome, earlier, that refinement, that uniqueness, that personality shine through, not only just the person itself, but in the car, in the aesthetics, in the driving prowess.
Yeah, so looking at our airforce.com replay side-by-side here, you can see the difference in their lines. Jonathan was a little bit closer than James Dean was when we talk about the follow runs. And then through this section here, James did go a little bit wide, kind of missed some of that inside clip. So both of them had very small mistakes in the lead, and both of them had very small mistakes in the chase. Like I said, a little bit of contact from James, but yeah, it's really going to come down to these very small points to make the call.
Yeah, just splitting hairs, as I always say, and that's what's going down. These guys are looking at those side-by-side runs. It gets tough. Vernon, Brian Eggert, Chris Marin. Again, Vernon and Mr. Marin there. Just
it's tough.
welcome.
You can see them. They're stressing out over these. This is not easy.
Yep. Again, Pat Gentili, P2, being replaced by Chris Ewell. Here we go. Slide him left for James Dean, right for Jonathan Hurst. One more time.
I'm not going to lie. I'm pretty happy about this.
Those 85. All right. You know, taking a look at this, and we might, Frederick Osbo waits in the wings. It's going to be one of these guys. Is it going to be Hurst after 2 one more times, or is it going to be the 3-time champion? 6 championships between, if it was Dean and Osbo. But Gucci, Rome Charpentier, and then Olsen versus Nick Novak. Here we go. Our final battle, the Royal Purple Top 16. Royal Purple, the official engine oil of Formula Drift. Like I said, this could really favor James Dean. Just, he's very, obviously, a lot of driving, arguably one of the best drifters in the world. And here we go, sliding into that first outside zone. You saw an early initiation there from Jonathan Hurst. James Dean crawls into that first outside zone. I mean, listen to this thing, wound up into outside zone 2. Massages it in, look at that. Just standing on the throttle, Jonathan Hurst. And this is where it gets hairy. You can see just that long, slick run there. In his final, Jonathan Hurst adding some flair around that final inside clip. And they bring it around. So just crawling their way through it. If everybody could blow really hard, and maybe we could dry the track. Okay, just, there we go. All right. Same time, let's get that jet dryer out there.
Good work. So James Dean, I mean, he's basically driven in the rain most of his life. Jonathan Hurst doing everything he can here. Now, I will say the Nittos do generally struggle a little bit more in the rain, and we don't really know how the Kendas do with the new compound, but we do see that James is able to get out quite a bit of a lead on Jonathan Hurst here, who's breaking the sound ordinance every time he touches the gas pedal. But James Dean able to keep the car very much under control. It's a slow go, but it is very, very controlled, whereas Jonathan's is a little bit more herky-jerky. Can see him basically taking that inside clip for a ride. So James might have...
All right, here we go. So the second half of this battle, Jonathan Hurst and James Dean. Yeah, James, the windshield wiper's working extra hard, man. That's the one. That car has seen it all. Here we go. Hurst and Mr. Cool Caddy will be leading. Here we go. Now into this first outside zone. The Cadillac just missing outside. He drops that back left into the wall. Oh, buddy. Little correction there. It looks like he's almost going to move it. Wow. This thing is just, wow. Wow, it sounds like Apocalypse Now going down. This sounds insane.
I think he's auditioning.
Sounds like a firing range. Make some noise.
It's like he's auditioning for the movie Drumline.
Right.
Oh, man. Love that car, though.
Yeah, rat-a-tat-tat.
All right, let's see here. So, Jonathan Hurst, obviously out front in that XLR. A little bit of a boop there. James Dean, okay, that's how you need to drive in the rain. Jonathan getting on the throttle nice and early as they start to push out now. Obviously, James Dean able to keep everything under composure. We did see a bit of a gap here previously, but James able to close that in. Jonathan throwing a ton of angle, big correction there with the e-brake as they go around, and this is where we get all the limiter at this point. So James a little bit further back than maybe where he could have been. Jonathan able to stretch out a bit of a lead there. But the judges are going to take a look at both runs, understand who did better in the lead, who did better in the chase, and see what the overall driving ability was of both the drivers. I mean, this is not easy. When you're doing this out in the rain, this is incredibly difficult. These cars are meant to go at a full clip. So when you start to add in a little bit of these tiers, it's not any easier.
Absolutely. Yeah, it gets tough for them, and the fans are still sticking around. Thank you guys and gals, children of all ages. Who's moving on to go against Frederick Osbo? Left for Dean or right for Hurst, and it looks like James Dean gets the victory. A great hard-fought effort after not one, but two one more time. The third battle, he finally got a victor.